Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to this presentation on the Bitter Lake Reservoir Improvement Projects. The presentation is around 25 minutes long, so if you'd like to navigate through a particular section, here are some timestamps. We begin with the reservoir project background at 35 seconds. Reservoir construction information begins at 6 minutes and 31 seconds. Public art updates begin at 11 minutes and 28 seconds. Park project updates begin at 15 minutes and 27 seconds, and the Q&A begins at 18 minutes and 38 seconds.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching this pre-recorded presentation. My name is Pat Manning from the Seattle Public Utilities, and I'm the project manager for the Bitter Lake Reservoir Improvement Project, which is heading into construction this year, 2026. Representatives from the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, as well as Seattle Parks and Recreation, will join later on to provide updates on their planned site improvement projects after the major renovation construction is complete. Throughout the presentation, we'll use shorthand SPU for Seattle Public Utilities, ARTS for the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, and SPR for Seattle Parks and Recreation. Here's a look at the topics we're going to cover in this presentation. We'll talk about the site's history before getting into planned reservoir improvements and a construction overview. After we get through updates from SPU, ARTS, and SPR, we'll have a guided Q&A to respond to questions you may have as we begin construction on the reservoir project. Starting with project background and overview on the reservoir project. The reservoir was built in 1958 as an open reservoir, meaning it did not have a cover. The reservoir was built to provide clean, safe, and reliable drinking water to residents in North Seattle. The floating cover was installed in 2001 to comply with mid-1990s amendments to the 1972 Clean Water Act and Washington State Department of Health requirements. The reservoir's cover has been performing its intended purpose to protect drinking water in the reservoir from dirt, dust, and animals over the last 20 years. SPU looked at options for replacing the floating cover that is reaching the end of its service life. SPU ultimately chose to go beyond the minimum requirements of replacing the reservoir cover and decided to replace the existing 21 million gallon reservoir with a new, partially buried concrete reservoir. The new reservoir will hold the same amount of water as the existing reservoir, will provide protection for the drinking water, and will last longer than a floating cover. This type of reservoir also has a smaller footprint, freeing up new outdoor space for the community to enjoy. SPU has done similar reservoir projects in the past, like the Maple Leaf Reservoir and the Beacon Hill Reservoir, where a park is on top of the reservoir or at the same site as the reservoir. We'll now take a quick look at the existing reservoir and compare it to the new reservoir. As illustrated in the photo, the existing reservoir site is 13.3 acres, but the majority of the site is fenced off for reservoir security, with only 4 acres open to the public. The 4 acres of public space include the pea patch, playground, and plaza on the north side of the site, and a small open space on the southeast corner of the site. In this rendering of the new partially buried reservoir, you can see it will have a smaller footprint than the existing reservoir, allowing for us to open over 6 acres of space for public use. Our project will use some of this space for a new walking trail up and around the reservoir. The remaining open space will be left open for the local neighborhood and community to enjoy after the reservoir construction is complete. We're also making grading, landscaping, stormwater improvements. ARTS and SPR will add their improvements to the site after reservoir construction is complete, and we'll share more about those details later. Here we have a side-by-side comparison of reservoir footprints to help illustrate the change after the reservoir construction is complete. The image on the left is the existing reservoir. The image on the right is of the new reservoir. Starting with the existing reservoir, The majority of the site is fenced for reservoir security, shown by the dotted white line on the left side. The rectangular reservoir also takes up most of the central area. The new circular reservoir has a smaller footprint, and the fence is brought closer to being around the exposed concrete and reservoir facilities. The orange diagonal lines on the right side show the amount of space that will be available for recreational use after SPU's project is complete. The grading around the new reservoir has also changed to prepare for SPR's park project. In both images, the fence on the western edge of the site will remain to help separate the reservoir space from the residential homes. Stepping back now to look at a broader picture for the reservoir project, the designing permitting phases began in 2022 and ended in 2025. During design, we worked with ARTS and SPR to engage the community and understand your priorities and concerns. Your input has helped inform design considerations for all three City of Seattle departments. The next phase of the project is construction, which begins this year, 2026, and is planned to wrap up in 2029. There will be community engagement throughout construction to share progress updates and address questions and concerns from the public. Now that you know the basics of the project, we're going to talk a little bit about construction. As construction begins, SPU and the project team is committed to being a good neighbor to residents, tenants, businesses, and organizations in the area. We want to point out several of SPU's good neighbor commitments. First, we will provide advance notification of construction activities to keep the public and the neighbors informed. We will send out email updates and flyers as construction progresses, so folks are able to plan around our construction. You can sign up for email updates by visiting our project website. Second, we'll work with our contractor to maintain a clean work site. The contractor has a plan in place for regular site maintenance. Third, we'll work with our contractor to maintain business and residential access throughout construction. Access endpoints to residents and businesses are planned to be minimized during construction. If we do need to temporarily block off a road, a sidewalk, or a driveway, we'll provide a safe detour route. Next, we'll minimize noise, dust, and debris. We'll work with our contractor to use best management practices to minimize impacts to the public and the environment. Best management practices could include things like spraying water on dirt to keep the dust down, or recycling construction materials to minimize waste. Next, we'll provide wayfinding and signage. When a work impacts walkways, we'll make sure people walking and rolling around know how to navigate the area. We may also have flaggers on site to direct traffic during construction. Notification for temporary bus routes, reroutes, or bus stop relocations will be provided by the transit providers. During construction, you can expect noise, dust, and vibration, typical of a construction site. Temporary sidewalk closures and parking restrictions. This is expected while we build pedestrian improvements around the site. We'll have to restrict access while we remove and restore portions of the sidewalk and roadway. No other nearby restrictions are currently planned, but sometimes unexpected circumstances require us to temporarily close sidewalks or parking spaces. We'll do our best to minimize this. Temporary traffic impacts to accommodate vehicle construction. On screen, we have a tentative construction timeline that was developed during the reservoir project's design phase. Construction of the reservoir will start in 2026 and last until 2029. This year, we're bringing our contractor on board, breaking ground, and focusing on removing the existing reservoir and excavating soil to create room for the new, partially buried reservoir. The primary focus of 2027 and going into 2028 will be pouring concrete to build the new reservoir. After the concrete reservoir is built, Our 2028-2029 focus changes to a number of things like installing reservoir utilities, partially covering the reservoir, grading the site, constructing the walkway and bioretention ponds, and other features like fencing, security, and storm piping. Public art will be installed after most of SPU's construction is complete in the 2028-2029 timeframe. All construction for the Bitter Lake Reservoir Improvement Project is planned to wrap up in 2029 so the drinking water reservoir can be operational. Depending on funding approval in the next Parks District Fund cycle, which starts in 2029, SPR's park project may start after SPU's construction is complete. SPR will develop their own construction timeline once they've finalized park designs and have a contractor on board. SPU hasn't received a final construction schedule from a contractor yet, so construction phases could shift, but it remains SPU's goal to complete the Bitter Lake Reservoir Improvement Project in 2029. Now I'd like to transition into talking about other site improvements that will be made. Not only is the neighborhood getting a new reservoir, but new public art and park amenities are also planned. We'll start with an update on public art from Arts, and then we'll get an update on the park project from SPR.
Okay, thanks for the segue, Pat. My name is Aditola Baton. I am from the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, or ARTS. I'm the public art project manager for this project, really overseeing the public art that will be installed at the reservoir site. So Arts commissioned 4 artists in late 2024 to develop public art for the reservoir site. The art opportunities and their locations were identified and developed thanks to our planning artist, Kate Clark, who conducted their outreach in tandem with SPU and SPR from 2022 through 2024. Public art will be installed between 2028 and 2029 after most of the reservoir construction is complete. Our first commissioned artist is James Din, and his artwork is titled Weaving Water. It'll be a sculpture located at the highest point of the site, at the top of the new walking path around the reservoir. This work celebrates the cultural diversity of Bitter Lake community and its history by using a drop of water as a metaphor for how we individually and collectively create positive ripples in the lives of others and in the environment. What you're seeing is the artist's latest mock-up of what the sculpture will look like. It's shaped like a stylized drop of water, and the sculpture will be woven from wave-shaped ribbons of stainless steel. Some of the ribbons will have text gathered from community engagement that the artist conducted with surveys in different languages. Our second commissioned artist is Elizabeth Gahan, and her artwork is titled The Wave. It'll be an arched sculpture illustrating water as active and life-sustaining. The sculpture will include cutouts of animals suggested by children in after-school program workshops. And it also acts as a place to meet, a place to rest, a place to engage, since it'll be located at the northeast entrance of the site to welcome parkgoers. As shown in this illustration, the cutout design creates patterns of water and air and is populated with animals from community engagement with these elementary school students. Long sweeping lines flow throughout to symbolize a moving fluid, interconnected representation of water, air, and living things. Our third commissioned artist is Lauren Ida, and her artwork is titled The Language of Objects. The language of objects will be integrated into metal inlays along walkways around the reservoir site. This artwork will take inspiration from memories and experiences of senior center residents nearby the reservoir and those who have experienced homelessness in the community. The artist is creating a memory net, which are made of paper, which will be transformed into these metal inlay artworks, similar to what you're seeing on the page. And when placed in the pathways of the new park, the symbolic objects create a scavenger hunt that represents the Bitter Lake community. Our fourth and last commissioned artist is Saya Moriyasu, and her artwork is titled Dewdrop. Dewdrop is a series of small water-inspired figures added to the 4 bioretention ponds at the top of the reservoir. This artwork will help tell the story of the water cycle of the reservoir and create a playful treasure hunt. Like the rendering shows, these creatures will be discovered by park visitors as they walk near the bioretention swales by the new reservoir. The organic shapes are influenced by a workshop at the Bitter Lake Pea Patch, where residents shared their stories and reflections about the meaning and movement of water in their lives. This wraps up the public art update. Now I'll pass it off to Janice for an update on Seattle Parks and Recreations project.
Thanks for your handoff, Ade. My name is Janice Leon. I'm from Seattle Parks and Recreation. I'm the project manager for the Bitter Lake Reservoir Park Improvement Project. I'll be giving you a brief update on the park project and what's coming up. The planning phase of the project began in 2023 and wrapped up in 2025 when we completed the preferred schematic master plan. The plan is the visual you're seeing here and is available on SPR's Park Project website. The schematic master plan was informed by feedback we received during 2 phases of outreach, including an open house, focus groups, and online surveys. Site elements include additional parks and open space with lawn, plants, and trees, potential expansion to the existing pea patch and play area along North 143rd Street. We will have new dog off-leash area adjacent to North 138th Street, accessible path, walkways, and ramps throughout the site, outdoor courts and recreation space next to Linden Avenue North. There will also be potential site lighting throughout the park and a restroom next to the play area. SPR has also identified 2 more potential art opportunities, earthwork art and a fencing enhancement. Earthwork art is a creative response to keep soil on site versus removing it during construction. The fencing enhancement could use plants, berries, and small animals decorations to soften the style of the fence around the park facility. We will explore the art opportunities more during the next design phase. Stepping back to provide an overview of our timeline, we completed the project's planning phase last year. This year in 2026, we will move into the design development phase to update the design and calculate a probable construction cost. The construction costs will inform the planning and funding approval at the next Parks District fund cycle, which will start in 2029. The park project will be put on hold until additional funding is available at the next cycle. Pending final design, permitting, and funding approval, construction for the park project will begin at the next Park District cycle, which is between 2029 and 2034. The QR code shown on the screen goes to the park project's website if you would like to learn more and sign up for email updates. This wraps up the park project update. I'll hand things back to Pat. Thank you.
Now we'll go through a guided Q&A to respond to some anticipated questions from the community. These questions are based on priorities and concerns that were identified by the community since SPU began the design phase in 2022. One question you might be asking is, how did community input inform the reservoir design? We engaged with the community several times throughout the design phase to collect public input on priorities, concerns, and select design elements. Community engagement was coordinated with SPR and ARTS to streamline outreach across projects when public input was needed. The addition of future walking trails around the reservoir, the shape of the bioretention ponds as drops of water, and the interpretive signage that will be installed on the site were all informed by public input. Next question. Will the project affect parking on Linden Avenue North, North 138th Street, and North 143rd Street? During reservoir construction, we do not expect much parking to be affected. Crews will stage materials and equipment and park within the construction area on the reservoir site when possible. Parking on the west side of Linden Avenue may have parking restrictions during most intensive construction, like site excavations and concrete pour days for the new reservoir. There may also be some temporary parking restrictions to create safe working areas while we reconstruct portions of the sidewalk on Linden Avenue North, North 138th Street, and North 143rd Street. Next question. What kind of noise, vibrations, and other impacts should neighbors expect during construction? Neighbors can expect noise from construction equipment and a contractor's vehicles and their backup alarms. Some neighbors may also feel vibrations during excavation work and from truck activity. Contract work hours on this project are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but that does not mean the contractor will work all those hours. We're expecting that the contractor will begin as early as 7 a.m. and finish the day at 3 to 4 p.m. We'll do our best to avoid working outside of contract hours. If night work is needed, we will do our best to notify you in advance. Sometimes last-minute night work is unavoidable, and noise impacts would be similar to regular daytime operations. Lastly, there will be many trucks entering and exiting the site, especially throughout 2027, while we're pouring concrete for the new reservoir. We'll notify neighbors about what to expect on concrete pour days. The work could create some traffic delays, but we're not planning to shut down access to any of the nearby roads. Will there be drinking water service disruptions during construction? Water service disruptions are not planned to happen during the reservoir construction. If service disruptions occur, please report them to SPU's 24/7 Operations Response Center at 206-386-1800. What public safety and crime prevention measures will the city take during and after construction? During construction, SPU will keep the site safe with fencing and lighting around the work area. During work hours, crew members will monitor the areas and report crimes and safety concerns to SPU security or the Seattle Police Department as needed. If you see safety concerns or crimes during construction, please contact Seattle Police or report the concern on the Find It, Fix It app. SPU worked hard to design a reservoir site that prevents crime through improving visibility and creating a community-centered environment. We hope the walking path and gathering spaces on the site encourage family-friendly activities and use of the park that discourages illicit activity. Will the P-Patch, Plaza, and Park remain open to the public during construction? Yes. We plan to keep the P-Patch, the Plaza, and the Park open as much as possible during construction. If closures are needed for safety, we'll provide advance notification ahead of time. If I use a walker, cane, or scooter to get around, will construction affect how I navigate the area? Construction may affect pedestrian walkways on the reservoir site, especially during sidewalk work. Sidewalk work and pedestrian detours will be communicated in advance via email updates. We may also distribute flyers so neighbors and apartment tenants are aware of the upcoming work. ADA compliant pedestrian detours and signage are required during sidewalk closures. The contractor's on-site signage will direct pedestrians around the sidewalk work. The future walking path around the reservoir will be ADA compliant for those who walk and roll for recreation. Thank you for watching this presentation. The QR code shown on the screen goes to the Reservoir Project's website if you'd like to go sign up for project email updates. If you have questions about the Reservoir Project, you can send them to me, Pat Manning. My email address is displayed on the screen. Adetola's contact information is also shown if you have questions about the public art that will be installed on the reservoir site. You can also contact Janice Lang for questions on SPR's park project. Elisa Choi is the Department of Neighborhoods Community Garden Coordinator if you have any questions related to the Bitter Lake peat patch. We hope you have a great day. Thank you.